Good evening to my YouTube viewers. Today we will switch over to the another sub area, cultural relativism. Here the origin of culture is sprang up, that is the idea of cultural relativism raised or understood through the research activities, that is particularly empirical, that is the practical, and also theoretical. Theoretical means after practical we will write the books. So through the writings of Mr. Franz Boas. This Franz Boas is named as father of American anthropology. Boas framework has given the way or paved the way to form the research methods. What we call it as ethnography. This ethnography is nothing but a scientific effort, we should put it, and try to understand the research and try to understand the cultures by comparing oneself of its own. This method, this ethnography is more useful to avoid the bias in the when we are writing the cultures, that is in the research activity, research program. And also this ethnography can also be called as a description of culture, recording of culture, reserve the culture from the future point of view. For the next generation, it will be useful to understand this. Culture relativism is an idea. One should have the belief and try to keep it in practice and understand by comparing one's own culture, that is the research culture. But basically, the researcher should be always neutral from the ethical and emotional point of view. In ethnocentrism principle, one can easily describe the culture. Already I told you, description of culture is also ethnography. So one can easily describe the culture, but practically it is not at all. It may be strange, it may be wrong. No problem. But he is comparing from the researcher point of view. But the researcher is always try to understand by comparing his or her own culture or one's own culture to the new culture, which is wrong. So it should be think about the respondent culture is important. For what the researcher came, in order to know the respondent culture by application of, by employ of research methods. Once again, we will go through cultural relativism. The origin of cultural relativism. The notion of cultural relativism is sprang up through the empirical or research activity, or theoretical, or in the form of book, the write-ups in the form of books or writings in the book. Whose book it is? It belongs to the Franz Boas book. He is named as father of American anthropology. Franz Boas' broader framework has given the way to understand the research methods. So he is the initiator to introduce the research methods, what we call it as ethnography. This ethnography means scientific effort, we should put it, not in a non-scientific. Scientifically we are doing the research. So scientific effort, put it. And try to understand the one's own culture. And it is also useful to avoid the bias at research program. while they are doing the research activity. And ethnography can also be known for description of culture, recording of culture, and reserve the culture, keep it the future point of view. Either may be research or to hand out the information to the next generation. And the idea of cultural relativism is that a person should believe and then practice. Without belief, nobody wants to practice it. And then understand the culture from his own point of view. But basically, the research should be always ethically, emotionally neutral. His own personal feeling should not be right, should not be compared with the respondent what he is going to or she is going to say. In ethnocentrism principle, one can easily describe the culture. Already I told you, description of culture is ethnography. But practically, it is not at all wrong or strange to know the culture from his point of view. The researcher will try to understand the new culture compared with his own culture, which is not at all advocated. Instead of that, what they should do, they should always take the facts from the researcher point of view. What researcher will say, we should not know. What we feel, we should not taken into consideration. So researcher respondents are very, very important in the ethnography. By this, today's lecture is completed. If possible, please do subscribe. This is Bindu taking leave from YouTube platform. Good night.